Hello, hello. Jesus Christ. I already regret that. Hello? I've literally never opened a stream like that in my entire life. That was off the cuff. Um okay. We're doing alright. Hello everybody, welcome in. Today I'm doing something different from my usual content. I'm doing a podcast. Invisible finger quotes. Um Probably a better name for it, but basically I'm doing like an interview sort of thing of one of my friends from Twitter. Say hi.
Hello, greetings, salutations.
Salutations. I liked it. Um, yeah, this is yeah. Got I gotta pull up my notes. Streamer of the year. Streamer of the year. Trust. Okay. So the premise is, I bring in interesting people that I find in the wild, and I'm basically like, hey, why don't you like talk to me about like your interests and stuff, and then people who are interested in those interests, well, maybe go follow them, right? If you want to. Uh, okay. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, I am Mozzie, and I am a Yumi shipper of Kinger. I am most active on Twitter, and I do art, writing, and a bunch of other stuff.
All right. Thank you for that. Um, explain. Yeah. So I came across you. I think we had a mutual. Was it Ashton or was it? I don't really remember. I think you know what I'm talking about when I say that, right?
Most likely not. I don't have the
The
best memory of
the
everyone.
Killer Bean guy.
Oh, yes, I think I know. I think I know who you're talking about. Maybe.
No, no, you don't. Hold on, let me. I'm probably not even following that person anymore. um, it is. Yeah, I don't even think I'm following the person that I. Or maybe I just found you literally in the wild. That's all. That's
Would not be surprised
equally
if you did.
possible. But yeah, they are part of the Yum shipping scene. Why don't you could you explain to the people at home what that like means?
Yes. So Yumi shipping, also known as self-shipping, is a umbrella term for people who use self-inserts, sonas, or OCs to basically ship themselves or their own original characters with either other OCs or popular characters in media. Yumi shipping as a term originates from Asia, more specifically idol culture in Japan and Korea, where Yumi means dream. You are basically dream shipping. You are with this fictional character. It again originally started with idol culture, where fans would ship themselves with their characters, though with modernization of everything and the westernization of the community, it has become less ideal to ship yourselves with real characters and focuses more on the fictional aspect.
Okay, that was actually very concise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's dive into that a little bit. So you are you said in your introduction that you ship yourself with Kinger from the
Yes.
Amazing Digital Circus. And um, so it's not like you, but it's your OC. Why don't
It
you?
is like yes.
No, sorry.
Yes, go on.
Uh, no, I'm gonna let you go. Actually, sorry.
Alright, no. Um, it's not necessarily an OC, more as it is like a I base that character off of myself, off of my interest, off of my name, off of my
So it's like
personality.
a manifestation, or
Yes.
like okay. Um, okay, so like Jesus Christ, I'm flopping right now. Is there anything distinctive besides like the look from your persona from you? Do they have
Um, Apart from just the look, the character is of course aged up to be a closer age to Kingo from the confirmed age we have of Kingo, so there's less of an age gap. And part of the lore, like the backstory behind the character, is also changed to fit into the setting of the media.
okay, you said there's this is a bit of a side tangent, but established age, how old is Kinger supposed to be?
48 years old.
38?
48.
48. Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay. Uh so like what would how what's the yeah, if you don't mind give us like a summarized view or in depth if you want to of the character or of your persona in like the background.
Yes. So my Sona is a 35-year-old male. He used to be a nuclear reactor operator who eventually found himself in the digital circus when putting on the headset. He is he came into the circus pre-Zooble, another character in the show, and kind of builds up a relationship with Kingo over the time before the show and during the show, where at that point they are already in an established relationship. It is a very slow burn, uh, kind of dynamic, and yeah,
Okay. So that would fall under I think it's called like fanon, right? Fanon.
yes, yes, Fanon.
Okay. Here's a question I got. Because not all of the Amazing Digital Circus is out. How does that how does that affect like the lore as a how does it affect sorry. How
You
does
good?
your lore get changed as the story progresses? Like I remember in the most recent episode of the show, um spoilers, you're introduced to a character named I think her name's Queenie or something.
Yes.
How does that how do you work around that?
Well, we have actually been introduced to Queenie in the past, but not physically, more of a mention. Kinger in episode 3 mentions that he has an abstracted wife. We now know that abstraction is basically the equivalent of death. So, for the longest time, my lore has been based around how my character helps Kinger move on from from the hurt, from the pain, from the heartbreak of losing a previous lover, much like a lot of people in real life do. How if they lose someone they love, how they will take a lot of time and effort and usually find someone that helps reignite that love they once felt. That is kind of where I have my lore. But when it comes to how, like with the recent episode, we got some more concrete evidence of Kinger being a programmer. What I do is I try and purposely leave a bunch of the like before the show part of my lore intentionally vague for when the show's wrapped up, I can go back and I can work on it more because I've left it vague while it was happening. There is more to work with when it's done because I've left a lot of open space to kind of fit in what we learn in the final episode.
Okay. Um, okay, yeah, so that makes sense. You keep it sort of bare bones, focusing more of the lore around you rather than around Kinger, or
Yes.
around then. Let me rephrase that. It's less around. It's more around you than you and Kinger, so that you
Yes.
can shape it up as it goes along. Do you
Yes.
have?
I try and
Sorry. Um,
no, no.
do you have any like fears about the future of the show? Like, and at least in terms of how it fucks up with your lore. Like, I know you said abstraction is like basically death, but we do know that it's not exactly death because they're still there, but they're just like monstrous, scary blobs that they get put in the
Yes.
basement by Kane. So like, what if like episode 9 comes out and it's like, oh, Queenie's back because King fixed everything.
Oh, well, in a case like that, this is something that a lot of other Yumi shippers and people who self-ship do when the character they're self-shipping with has a like a canon partner or a canon relationship. What they'll do is they'll either find a way like around that or they'll just rewrite it like an AU
Mm.
where it's different than what happens. Like either there's a different relationship, like they're friends or best friends instead of lovers, or they'll completely rewrite that character out, like they'll write that character out of their AU. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Okay. Do you think that will happen, or?
I don't believe so. In the merch, I know it's not canon. The TADC merch videos aren't exactly canon, but Queenie is specifically described as Kinga's dead wife in those. So I don't have really like the biggest expectations that she will come back, at least not herself and not the monstrous abstraction form.
Hmm. Okay. Uh, let me see what other questions I got here. Yeah. I'll save that one for the end. Sorry. I'm looking here. Yeah, I'm not very good at this. Honestly, you should take over for me. You're a lot better at talking than I am. Um, I'll ask. What do you have any like? No, let me rephrase that. I saw a interesting theory on on like Twitter or whatever that Pomni is AI. What do you think about that?
Honestly, now I used to get really deep in the theories way back in the day, but I've kind of not really involved myself with them much as time went on because there's just so many and there's more focus on the characters than there is the actual lore as said by Gooseworks herself. But the Pomni AI theory has been always interesting to me, especially with some of the wording around her characters that others have said, particularly Kane. I can definitely see where it comes from, and it wouldn't surprise me too bad if it was canon, but a major thing about the show is human connection. So I'm not entirely I'm not the biggest believer of it.
Okay. Uh, yeah, it is interesting. Honestly, I don't personally. I don't think that it would. It's going to be confirmed. It's interesting on paper, but it would kind of. I feel like with the way the show is going right now, thematically, it wouldn't make sense for Pomni to become AI, or not to become, to have always been AI. Because for one, we know how Kane treats AIs, right? You know,
Hmm.
with characters like Gummy Goo, he's very he. I'm actually thinking about it now because well, Kane makes the NPCs, right?
Yes.
But he doesn't make the. Does he make the avatars?
Yes, he does. He in episode 8 it's confirmed that he looks at the mind files of everyone who enters the circus and bases their avatar around what he finds in them.
Okay, so that does kind of go into my thing, right? I do, Kane has always been characterized, at least the way I see it, is he's an entertainer. He's trying to have the people have fun, and I don't feel like he would make an AI for the other humans that he also has to satisfy. I feel like that'd be too much work. And if he were willing to do that, I feel like he wouldn't have just blipped Gummy Goo out of existence like that. Because
A major yes, yes. A major thing on why a lot of people think or theorize that one of the characters in the main six might be an AI is actually because of what he says after killing Gummy Goo, where he says, if I lose track of who's a human and who's an NPC, who knows what will happen. So it's
hmm,
just a lot of theorizing around Kane's words, and the way he talks about Pomni, I can see where people are getting at with that. But again, the whole point of the show is about the characters, the connection, like finding a reason within a stagnant life. I don't think that one of the main six would be an AI simply due to the fact that it's a show all about human connection, like I've been saying. I don't really know how else to put it.
yeah, yeah, and I think especially in the case of Pomni, which is what I've mainly been hearing. I haven't heard as much about other characters being AI as much as I've heard about being Pomni, probably because she was the last person to be added. That's probably people were like,
Mhm.
oh, she's probably the most likely. But in episode 8 establishes her as like someone who can actually like lead. Someone they've built up a lot of character, especially in the last episode with Pomni. The last few episodes, and I feel like it wouldn't make sense for her to be the AI if there is any, which I doubt there is, like you said. Um. Anyway, let's move away from Amazing Digital TADC questions for now. I want to ask about the community of Yuming. Is it Yume? Yumi?
Yumian.
Yeah, Yuming. That community. Um, what's your like experience with it for the time you've been doing it? Actually, that's a better question.
I
Hold on, sorry, pause. How long have you been doing this?
Well, that kind of depends. Uh, I've had my Yumi ship with Kingers since June 20th, 2025, but I never really interacted with the community or shared it until around late August, early September of 2025.
Okay, so so yeah, what's been your experience with the community so far?
So far, my personal experience, it has been wonderful. Now, a lot of the times, there can be a lot of negatives in the community. Like, it's with most communities. There's always going to be a bunch of bad apples that ruin the bunch. But I've met a lot of great people, a lot of people I call my friends now, a lot of people who support my work, support like the content I make, and support me. It's been a really lovely experience, especially on Twitter, which is surprising because it's Twitter, but
Mm,
it's really been great. There is, of course, always a lot of drama everywhere, but if you really just avoid all of that and just kind of stick by yourself and by people you know and trust in that community who you've talked to for a while or you get along with very well, it's a lot of fun. It is definitely a great community and one that I've really enjoyed joining.
okay. Yeah. You mentioned bad apples. bad. Sorry, I'm stupid. I said bad apple and I thought of the that. Do you have any specific examples in mind, like that you can
um
remember?
Well, there's quite a few that like come to mind. I know the biggest one was actually one on TikTok. It was an old um Arvin self shipper. It is a character from the Pokemon series, and everything kind of just blew up with them, and they kind of got pushed off the internet. There's a few other that like I can't really remember their names, but I remember it being like big on Twitter with call out threads on them. There is a lot of people who aren't the greatest who either start Yumi shipping with like bad characters like pedophiles, rapists, that kind of stuff, which is like really weird. And when that's brought to light, there is like a huge breakdown with that. There's other people who engage in less than liked communities like pro and dark shipping who do it secretly against people's backs, which has also blown up quite a bit. It happens in really any community, but the Yumi shipping community is very competitive in a way. So when people find that like other people do this kind of stuff, way it's a way bigger deal than it is in other communities. It kind of blows up way more and has bigger reactions, which kind of puts other people off from joining or interacting with the community because it's always so like hostile.
Uh, you said, hang on a bit of a word. You said the community is kind of competitive.
Yes, competitive.
Um, can you elaborate just on that like a little bit more?
Yes. Well, in the community, there is um a bunch of people, normally non-sharers, which I am a non-sharer myself, so I kind of try and distance myself from people like this. But certain people will have like such a strong connection to their characters that they feel personally threatened when other people Yumi ship with that same character. We call those in the community doubles. A lot,
Mm.
not a lot, but quite a loud like handful of people will harass or threaten or try and harm their doubles in that community to either get them off the internet or get them like away from that character. It's not a lot of people, but it's a loud minority which kind of shapes the way others view the community.
Okay. Do you have any doubles?
Oh, quite a lot, and I love them all. I don't personally like to interact with them, but they've all been so sweet, so caring. They are wonderful people.
Okay. That's cool. I didn't even think about that, that people would have like attachment issues to their characters. So, yeah, this stuff must get very it must run very deep. Like
Mm.
I don't know what I'm trying to say. Obviously, you said yourself you're not like that. You don't take like you don't get defensive about Kinger like you would if you were actually your real life boyfriend.
Not at all. It's more or less just a personal preference not to see other people who self-ship with him because it's like mono shipping versus multi shipping. There's some people who only like one pairing of a character, and that is how I feel towards Kinger.
Okay. Um can here's a question. So, you can in a community, you can have in the Yuming community, you have doubles, right? Can you have more than one character that you Yum, or is that like not heard
Oh,
of?
it is well heard of. Normally, most people who do Yumi ship have multiple FOs or fictional others, characters that they Yumi ship with. You can have really as many characters as you want because it can also be something for fun along with coping. And if you like a character, you can just Yumi ship with them. There's not really like any rules around it. Um, but no, if you Yumi a character, you will more often than not, have doubles of people who also like that same character. But the thing is, some people like to see doubles of their characters. Those are sharing or hyper sharing. Some are more specific in who they want to see with that character, which is selective, and others don't want to see doubles at all, which is non-sharing. Most of the time, it is up to personal preference and like their connection to the character, like how attached they are, but not always.
Hmm. Okay. So, and to follow up on that point, do you think that causes has that to your knowledge, has that ever caused issues of people having more than one FO, but also like doubles, also being a
There's
double?
definitely yes. A lot of the times, um, with more than one FO, not every FO has the same sharing status. Like personally, I only don't like seeing doubles of Kinga because again, I am a mono shipper with him. I don't really like any other ships with him. But with all my other characters, I enjoy seeing doubles. But other people may not want to see doubles like that. It's just boundaries. Now there is a lot of difficulty because a lot of people can have like multiple FOs who are like very popular. So a lot of that the community doesn't really interact with them because they may be non-sharing or the doubles may be non-sharing. So there's definitely some issue with that, which is why I can say it can be kind of competitive at times. It can feel competitive. But more often than not, there's not too many problems outside of just those people who also Yumi of friends of those people who have fidelity.
Hmm. Okay. You said You have other characters that you FO,
Yes,
right? Then no, probably.
yes.
Well,
That I Yumi ship with.
would you mind sharing? You don't have to if you don't want to.
No, it's fine. Most of these I don't really talk about too often simply because they aren't a main focus. They're more for fun.
Mm.
But Soren from Minecraft Story Mode, Ned Flanders from The Simpsons, Eggson from Dandy's World is a new one, along with Linus from Stardew Valley. There is also Ren Harris from a Roblox game, Daybreak 2, and Sonar from Dispatch. There's two other ones, but I don't necessarily like sharing them as I don't really engage with the fandom they're in as much because it's a little iffy. So I mostly keep those to myself.
Mm. Okay. Uh, let's I want to circle back a little bit because I just thought of this question. Um, your Sona, your Sona's name's Mozzie, right?
Yes,
Okay. Could you describe physically your Sona for people who haven't seen it?
yes. My Sona is a anthropomorphic bug. He is compared to hold on, no. He is 5'10", and he is a dark bluish gray with cyan and magenta highlights on the face and the limbs. He has 4 arms and 2 pairs of black wings with cyan, magenta, and yellow markings. CMYK, after like printed coloring. He has two um dark magenta eyes with gray pupils. He has one antenna on the top of his head and two on his face that kind of mimic a mustache. He has a royal robe similar to Kinger's that he normally wears, and a royal messenger outfit with a tunic and old pants that he wears underneath that.
Okay, that was very detailed. Thank you.
Yes.
So for those who aren't, well, I hope you'd be not you. I hope the viewers would be more understanding of the Amazing Digital Circus. But in case you don't know, never mind. I'm gonna run that back a little bit. So your character, the mosquito with you said magenta colored eyes. Yeah,
Dark magenta.
yeah.
Yes.
I was just gonna say, like dark magenta. So in your Sona's lore, right? Obviously, your character's not actually a mosquito before they put the goggles on, right? I assume
Absolutely not.
your Sona would just be you, except older.
Older. Yes.
So, what does the character that you made say about you? Because as you said before, in the Amazing Digital Circus lore, when Kane gets a new person in the Amazing Digital Circus, he scans their brain for like personality and stuff and makes a character based off that. What would you say,
Yes.
like, what parts of you relate to your Sona in that way? Like,
Yes.
if
Okay.
that makes sense.
So, um, it does. It does. A lot of the what we know about how those avatars are made is usually the characters' insecurities that are made into their avatars. I personally have a huge insecurity of being seen as annoying, kind of like a pest. So my idea behind making my avatar kind of bug themed is to be more like a pest, like something you don't want around, a kind of pesky bug. Um, to kind of show visually that fear of being seen as like unwanted, annoying, of like being something people don't want around.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you for sharing that. You didn't have to. I probably should have prefaced this. If you don't want to answer a question, you can just not. Obviously, I'm not.
Obviously, no, don't worry. It's not something that I personally find like any problem sharing. It's actually rather good to be aware of what your insecurities and what your fears are, and by having my character show my insecurities, it's kind of helps me through it in a way.
Okay. Yeah. What? Hmm. How does? So you said you got into the Yuming community in what you said like July or something.
June
J-
20th.
June 20th. Okay. Sorry.
If I started Yumiing in June, and then I like started posting and interacting with the community more in like August and September, but I started in June.
Okay. How did you get into it? Like,
Well, I previously had an old Twitter account that I kind of nuked a long time ago. And back then, a lot of my mutuals were in the self shipping, Yumi shipping community. And over time, as I kind of got more and more interested in TADC, I realized, hey, self shipping with Kinga would be rather fun. So I started doing that and posting to my TikTok, where I was more active for a brief period of time, before eventually deciding to move back to Twitter, where I knew that community at the time was more prevalent.
okay. So you've known about Yum shipping for a while,
Years. Years now, yes.
but you've only gotten into it recently. What would you say to someone who is maybe considering getting into it, but doesn't really know how or uh
Like where to start?
yeah, like or maybe someone like how do I put this? Hmm. I'm trying to a question is tough when I'm having trouble asking it. um so like someone who like maybe wants to get into Yuming but maybe they don't have like a character in mind or maybe they do have a character but maybe have some like insecurities about sharing it. Like, mm, yeah, no, us go with the other one. Like, let's say someone has a character they want to Yum, but they don't. Maybe they're like scared of like belittlement. What would you say to those kind of people?
Well, personally, while there is some competitiveness and there is some bad apples, a majority of the Yume community is very kind, very welcoming, like very supportive. The best thing to do is really just start posting, start sharing, and most importantly, do it for yourself. The whole point in Yumi and characters is to show your love for that character and like things of that nature. It's not really something that you need to worry about other people's opinions on. You should do it for your enjoyment, for your own, for fun, for coping, whatever you feel you should do. It's may seem scary at first, especially if you are like new to social media, you don't have like many connections. It's just the Yumi community is very nice. And once you put your foot out there, a lot of people will find you, they will support you, and I promise you will find your place in everything.
Okay. Outside of did I ask this already? Outside of like the Yum shipping, do you have other like hobbies?
I do have quite a few hobbies. I enjoy art, which I've been doing for years,
Yeah, you did mention this
writing,
before.
which I've also been doing for years. I've dabbled in 3D modeling. I've also am dabbling in coding and learning like Python, HTML, CSS, those kind of coding languages. I'm also into sewing, clothes making, traditional art outside of digital art, and just a few other things.
Okay, that's cool. Um, yeah. Yeah, you did. I do remember you mentioned art before. Um, but I didn't know about like the writing stuff. Do you write? What do you write?
Honestly, I mostly write fan fictions nowadays. I will be honest there. A lot of which is to do with my Yumi ship. But apart from that, I also just generally like writing about my own OCs and AUs that aren't fandom specific.
Okay, that's cool. Cause I don't know if you know this. I'm a writer myself. I also, admittedly, write mostly fan fiction, but that's just because that's been what's I have the most ideas for that. I like for the viewers that don't know, I write X-Men fan fiction. I wouldn't consider what I do in the same vein as what you do. I would not. I do have a character that is original to the series. I have a few characters. The main character, Lucas Hutcherson, I would not consider him the thing you mentioned. You distinguished that having a Sona is basically a self insert. It is you if you were in this universe.
Yes.
Mine's not exactly like that. My character, he has a lot of traits that I exhibit, but in no ways is he me.
Like an
He has a lot
OC.
of personality that I don't, you know.
Yes.
But that's cool. It's cool to know another writer. Um, do you have any questions for me? If you wanna like get to know me better, or I don't know.
I'm not very good with thinking of questions, I'll admit.
That's all right. I didn't expect any. Okay. Yeah, and I think with that we're gonna wrap it up. It's been 45 minutes ish. Um, let the people know where they can find you if they want to
Yes,
interact with you
you
more.
yes. If you'd like to follow me, interact with me, my socials are at Oz underscore the Waz on Twitter, and all of my other social medias can be found on my straw page, on my profile.
Okay, and I'll be linking those in the video description if this comes out. Um, Oz the Was. I actually didn't. How have I not noticed that the whole time? Do you want? What's the story behind that?
Well, I went by the name Oz for a while, which was actually stolen from a Monster Prom character, and since Oz and Woz sounded similar, I thought of Scott the Woz and kind of just stole the Woz from that.
Okay, that's cool. All right. Yeah. Um. So, at Oz the Waz on Twitter and all the other socials are through the straw page. Both will be linked in the description. I'll also drop it in chat if anyone's interested. That it says there are 3 people watching, so maybe one person. That and yeah, I think with that we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you guys for watching. Is it in? Hold on. It's a Far Cry. No one said anything in the chat. Are there any chatters with questions that I didn't ask? Give it like 30 seconds. Sorry.
It's alright.
It says 3 viewers on my display page, but I don't know how accurate that is. So we'll see. By the way, do you think you would have a name for this kind of podcast? I don't have a name for it yet.
Not off the top of my head, but if I have an idea, I'll likely DM you with it.
Okay. Uh, yeah, I don't think there's any questions, so we're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you guys for sitting in, and
And thank
peace.
you for having me.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. It's been good talking to you, and I will end stream. See ya.